Hi there and welcome back to my channel. This is Sean, the Honest Book Reviewer, with another book review. In this video we're discussing Why is for Yesterday, written by Sue Grafton. It's book 25 in the Kinsey Millhone series. Unfortunately, Sue Grafton died before she could finish Z, and that's very disappointing for fans of this series, especially because it was the last book in the series that wasn't finished. So we have 25 books in this series. It kind of feels like Kinsey's story is not complete. Especially because this book, the Kinsey character, didn't feel that wonderful for me. It felt like there were things she did that didn't suit her character. Despite this book being mainly well written, there are three things that bug me in this story. Firstly, Kinsey does things in this book that just doesn't suit her character, doesn't match her character from previous books in the series. Secondly, the big baddie in this book, Ned. He's written to be like a comic book character. He feels very cartoon-like. That was very disappointing for me in this book. Lastly, the conclusion, the big confrontation with Kinsey and Ned. It just felt like it was a cartoon as well. And it just gave off vibes for me like Janet Ivanovich, her books, Stephanie Plum books. That was a big bugbear for me when I read this, because it just spoiled the whole moment, I think. In this book, there are two main things Kinsey's involved in. Before we talk about them, let's talk about the inheritance from W is for Wasted. So I think in that book, Kinsey inherited about $500,000. And since then, she's been coasting through everything. It just feels like that inheritance is like a series plot cop-out. It felt like that to me because it just felt like Sue Grafton was just going through the motions with Kinsey after that. The Kinsey character couldn't really care about her cases because she had a bit of money behind her. And in previous books in the series, she was hungry for cases because she was hungry to earn money. It feels like a big shift in the series and just feels like a big cop-out to me. But anyway, let's go back to the two things Kinsey's working on. So first off, she's got Ned. Ned from the previous book in this series. He's still out there at large. He's a psycho, really, and he's after Kinsey, it seems. He wants to track her down and, attack her or kill her for some reason. And Kinsey's sure that Ned's in the area. So throughout this book, Kinsey's on edge. She's always on the lookout for Ned. When she goes out of her house, when she's traveling somewhere, she's always looking out for him. That's a big focus in this story. The second thing Kinsey's working on is a case she's been asked to investigate. Doesn't feel like a true case to me. So basically, she's been asked to investigate a blackmail case. And she's been asked by this young guy's parents. And this young guy was just released from prison. And on his release, he was blackmailed. So someone's trying to extort money from him about a tape that was filmed 10 years ago, I think, in the history of this story. And basically, it's a tape of him and some of his friends when they were teenagers doing something that actually was criminal. I won't go into details of what's on that tape, so I can't in a video like this for YouTube, but it feels like it's a tape that the Kinsey character from previous books in the series would not get involved in. If she saw the tape and what was on that tape, she'd be alerting the police straight away. In this book, she doesn't, and that's a big shock for me in this book. The Kinsey character that I know would alert the police to this behaviour, this act that was done on this tape. I'm going to ignore that whole blackmail case for the rest of the discussion on plot, because for me, it almost ruined the whole book. I'm going to focus on Ned, this psycho guy who's out there at large and trying to hunt Kinsey down. Throughout the book, we have different moments where Ned and Kinsey do cross paths and certain things do happen. But in those moments, they're very cartoonish. There's not much reality in those moments, and it just kind of ruined that whole thing for me. This guy, Ned, meant to be a big baddie, this big evil, doesn't feel like that. He feels incompetent. He feels useless. He feels like he could be just defeated by anybody. Your grandmother could defeat him. That's what it feels like in this book. So as a big baddie, a big villain, I think he's a total failure in this book. In the previous book, he was much stronger. But in this book, he just didn't work for me that much. In this book, we also have Return of Pearl. And we met Pearl in W is for Wasted. Pearl is a homeless woman, and her character in the first book we met her in was just wonderful. I really enjoyed her character, but in this book, she's written to be like a cartoon character as well. It feels like a comic book character, doesn't feel real. She has changes to her character and her personality that are cartoonish. Again, disappointing because it feels like this character was great in W is for Wasted is being ruined in this book. All in all, this book is disappointing. Not a good send-off to the series. I know it's not meant to be the send-off to the series. Sue Grafton intended to finish the last book, book 26, but having read this book and having seen the changes for Kinsey in the last few books, I kind of wonder what was in store in the last book, book 26. We'll never know, of course, because they're not intending to have it finished by a ghostwriter, but I get the impression that nothing will change much in Kinsey's life. Anything did change majorly, it wouldn't feel real, wouldn't feel organic, but those changes that I've seen in Kinsey in the last few books in this series haven't worked for me very much. I just think that Kinsey changed too much from the start of the series, not in a good way, in all the ways she's changed, and I think that there are certain things in this book especially that just stuck out for me as not being the Kinsey of old. Let's look back at some of the major characters in this series and their development. So first off, Kinsey. From book 1 in the series, she stood out for me as one of the best characters, best PI characters in fiction. She was witty, sarcastic, strong, brave, clever, and also I think the fact it was in the 80s, so everything was done manually. So you had to show in the storylines how resourceful she was as well, and just how she got around and did things and worked things out when, you know, you don't have a smartphone or internet. That was interesting in a series and made this character stand out so much. As books went on in the series, her character went stronger for me. You know, even though her character growth wasn't major growth in a series, she was still a loner. She was still unlucky in love. She kind of still didn't move too much as a character in the series. But a strong character for me. Later on in the series, so the last maybe 5 or so books, her character was changing a little bit, but not in good ways for me. Especially in this book, where she had decisions being made in the plot that didn't suit her character in previous books, felt very strange, wasn't the Kinsey of old, made me question the whole motives for the character in this book. Just felt really odd to me. But as series go, a strong character overall, one of my favourite characters in mystery books, in mystery series, one of my favourite PI characters of all time, a character I think I'll always remember. Another character I think of when I think of this series is Henry. I'll always adore Henry. He's a great character. He develops strangely in the series though, so I think at the start of the series he was a lot stronger. In other books as the series progressed, sometimes he vanished from the books altogether. Sometimes he was there as a very minor character it seemed in certain books. And in the last couple of books in this series, especially around the whole drought and trying to change his garden, rip out all the plants and all the lawn in his garden and conserve water and just leave it as bare dirt, didn't suit his character for me. It was a big change in his character and just didn't match the Henry of old. So another character in the last couple of books who felt strange to me. I'm not sure why Sue Grafton wrote the character like that in the last couple of books. It just seemed a very big shift. It didn't make sense to me. But if you look at the books overall, even though his character growth wasn't there, you know, he didn't have great character growth or great changes for him in the series, apart from, you know, ripping out all his garden and all his lawn. He's a strong character in a series, a strong supporting character, and he's a special character for me. So when I think of this series, Henry pops out to me straight away, and he'll be a character I think of all the time, I think. Rosie is another character I remember for quite a long time, and when I think of this series, she pops in my head straight away, just like Kinsey and Henry. Out of all the characters in this series, I think Rosie has the most character growth. She changes the most, and her changes are linked with William, Henry's brother. So when Rosie marries William, she changes, she softens, she becomes a bit more personable with people. She cares about people more, shows affection more, and she doesn't do that in earlier books in the series. So I like that growth and change in Rosie. I think she's a great character, a great support character. She's a strong character. Sometimes in certain books she did vanish from the pages, sometimes she was very minor, but when she was there in a lot of pages, she was very strong, and she just overtakes scenes so often. A very unique character, I think, in books. Stands out so much. One of my favourite characters in fiction, I think, because she's just uniquely written and created, and she just has this certain charm about her as well in the series. So Rosie will always be a character I remember, and especially when anybody mentions this series, Rosie just comes into my mind straight away. Despite not being a great book in my view for this series, it's still okay, and I rated it a 2.5 out of 5. I downgraded my rating because of that whole storyline with the videotape, because the actions of Kinsey did not meet the character actions from previous books in this series. It felt so alien to me, that whole storyline, because of that. I don't think it's a storyline that needed to be there. I got a feeling in the last couple of books, Sue Grafton changed her writing style a bit, and even the way she wrote her books, the way she planned the plot and everything seemed to change. On my channel, I review many mysteries. If you enjoy mysteries, check out my channel and subscribe. On the screen now is a link to a video for another book I'm sure you'll enjoy.